Wow, what a night! Little rain. Um, I'm gonna do the thing at the top. I'm not as good as Megan from Helping Friendly Pod because she nails it, but I'm gonna try. We had a crazy pre-show with the lot with Kevin from Space Bacon and Andy G, and it went into the larger jam band community beyond Phish, which is something that we've always been trying to do. So we're gonna go with that. Check out
And
the
we got put on gadiel.com/fish, which is
huge, huge.
huge. I mean, that just out of all the things that we've done as a channel, that is probably the greatest
It might be our
accomplishment.
crowning achievement. Really.
We should just call it quits. Like that's
Yeah,
fucking that's it. That was
this
the
is
end
the
game.
last show. This is
big. I don't know how we top it, but it's big.
So on that note, check out at the bottom of the chat. There's a little $sign. Costs a lot to keep the channel going. We won't stop, but we would love Team Chat if they want to say, "Hey, you're worth $1 to me." That would be great. That said, Friday we have Andy Michaels on the after show, and always the next day you want to check out Helping Friendly Pod 1:00 tomorrow. They're going to have Clay Bird, who is at WAE_podcast, and Scott King, who is at Mr. Scotty King, on their show 1:00 on the Osiris channels, anywhere you get the podcast, or go to their YouTube. And then we're going to go right to the top. I'm going to throw it to Tim because we were having an interesting discussion before the show, and I'm going to let you run with it.
Well, I'm probably going to just throw it right back to Benji because he's probably the most well-versed in this topic. But before we even talk about the show, what we were all talking about right afterwards was how the end curfew or timing of these different places work, in particular Pine Knob, because we understood that it was an 11 o'clock curfew normally, but because of the rain event and the cancellation and going a half hour past. But Benji obviously touring with Bill Kreutzmann and with Dead & Co and stuff, I feel like you might have a little more insider knowledge on this. What did you make of that? How does that all work?
So some places there's a non-negotiable curfew, and if you go over, it's usually tied to the city or the state. Or often in the case of, like, say, Santa Barbara Bowl, where it's in the middle of a residential area, and so it's like zoning things. And
Merriweather.
Merriweather. If you want to go over Merriweather, you have to have the governor sign off on that, and that
grab your ankles.
Yeah, that happened like maybe less than 3 times ever. So Dear Jerry was an attempt at that. And instead, some bands just got X'd because we couldn't go over.
Widespread was supposed to do Terrapin, and they had to axe that out of their set.
Right.
Yep.
That's right. You can. Well, I was about to say you can thank some band in particular for that, but yeah. So then a place like Pine Knob.
Was that the first band that played that night?
Possibly.
I was there.
So then so you know what I'm talking about. But regardless. Getting back to the topic, the thing is that a place like Pine Knob, chances are, the curfew's real and that they're paying their employees and whatnot, but it could go over. Like, there's often times where if it goes over by 5 minutes, there's no fine. Sometimes there's a fine, but sometimes if it goes over by, no one's going to be sitting there at the side of the stage with their clock and pulling the power. Other times that's not the case. But with Pine Knob, the thing is this: if there was no curfew, they wouldn't have done a 1-set show. They would have just kept it as a 2-set show and pushed everything back, right? So there obviously was a curfew issue. That being said, they probably negotiated with whoever, since it was somewhat arbitrary, not state or not because of neighbors, but just because of whatever labor. They probably negotiated and said, okay, you guys can go to 11:30. Rain delay.
Right. There you go. That's your answer. We actually had live reports from the field on the lot earlier with Andy, and when they finally did come out, they did I Never Needed You Like This Before, which is a great rock and roll opener. Travis, where are you at with that?
It isn't a great rock and roll opener. It's another different song to open a show with, which I think is
31st out of 30.
It's unopener. That's it.
Unopener.
It's the 31st different opener in a row, though. Good for them.
31st different opener in a row.
Good for them.
Right. I guess maybe by the time you get to this one as an opener, you're starting to get to the 31st song in a row.
Bottom of the fucking list.
So, you
I
know,
mean,
might need to.
that's it's secret smile before you know it.
Yeah.
Sing Monica. Let's open with Sing Monica tomorrow night.
Yeah,
Friday
but
night.
it's, you know, I mean, it opened with, you know, whatever, and it's the same way it's sort of winded down at the end. But it's, I don't know, it's fine. It is what it is. It kind of, I feel like it took them a few songs to, I don't want, you know, get going tonight. It just felt like, I don't know why.
Even the Everything's Right. It seemed like they opened that up a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
That was a
but
very
I mean,
cool jam. I thought it didn't
there
go
was a
too
lot
far,
of cool
but
jams tonight, which was the thing. I like a lot of cool jams.
jams.
So yeah, I think that's was a big theme tonight, which we'll get into a little bit later. But yeah,
That Everything's Right. What came in as the longest jam of the night, but it still was sub 20 at 17 minutes. But I do remember some really cool things they did in
Interesting
that.
places. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you at, Benji?
Well, I thought the Everything Right started out with a little bit of that that spacious jamming that we were talking about a little bit last night, right? Like it started out sounding where it without them losing intensity, Trey just sounds so relaxed and he's holding each note out and sustain. And I mean, he's done that throughout it's not new. He's done it throughout their career, you know, at various points. Divided Sky is a great example of compositionally, you know, when he's holding those notes out and drawing them out. So it was very spacious and open, but then it turned like they had this like intensity build, right? Where it just built to like a peak and then it kind of shifted into like a classic 3.0 Phish jam, you know. So I liked it. I was on board for that. Everything's right.
And it ended. They did the, you know, it was self-contained. Let's put it that way, because there's a comma. And then we got Kill Devil Falls, which, where are you at with that, Tim? With the 13 minutes, it had the micro jam. What are you thinking?
I thought it was a good jam, and another night might have stuck out a little bit more, but there was a night filled with those cool micro jams and cooler micro jams. So, like, you know, I think it was good. It was fine. You know, it was a Kill Devil Falls.
exactly. It's like it reminds me of like a 46 days. It's
Workhorse, yeah.
So yeah, it just
Actually,
kinda
last
does.
time they played 46 days, this motherfucker's like, Kill Devil Falls.
Yeah, they're very interchangeable.
Me, I did that. Yes, I did. Yes.
They're
I
those
really
interchangeable ones.
enjoyed Kill Devil Falls, and you know, it was because of the weekend Wook, the bracket with the 3.0 jams, where I went back and rediscovered that Kill Devil Falls, the one, you know.
Yes.
I forget offhand date or place, but there's only one.
I remember
you know?
listening to it many times during
Yeah.
that bracket, though.
Yeah, exactly right. And ever since then, I mean, Kill Devil Falls is one of those, like we talked about last night, like a white whale, where you're like waiting for, you know, to appear, and then it does. And I thought tonight, like you said, it was micro, but there was something about it when they went into the jam, they immediately went into this idea and immediately started doing something. And then they teased something at some point early on, and I just thought it was good. It was compact, but it was really good.
Yeah.
I think that's where the Mountain Jam tease appeared.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. Which Trey has been teasing, and will they let me do a quick round the horn, because Tim is pro round the horn now. Are they going to do a Mountain Jam, a full-on Mountain Jam ever?
Ever?
How about this year through Dix?
No.
Will they ever get there?
Ever it's a possibility. It could be on the table, and I would kill to see that 45-minute Mountain Jam set. Would make my life. Would be incredible.
We need that to happen now.
Yeah, right? Like
somebody make some calls.
Will that into existence, please, Kev.
I love Kev's choice for around the horn questions. Like, predict the future. Let's go around the horn.
Would you like this to happen?
Wild speculation.
That's what we pedal in.
That's right.
That is it. And then we got a really short Camel walk. I think that I got spoiled last winter or fall tour, whatever they want to call it. Was it the Gorge? They did that like 17-minute Camel walk where they got all kinds of spaces with it. Now, kind of tonight, it was a shout out to fucking Mike Lowe that he didn't get it last night. They were like, let's make your
I'm
pick
sure
5
that's
from
why
last
they
night.
played
That
it.
is. I knew they read
No,
Twitter.
Camel Walk is one of those songs for me, kind of like Meat or Gumbo, where if it goes long and is jammed out, that's an awesome bonus. But I am perfectly okay with the compact, confined, dance your ass off to that groove for 6, 7 minutes, and then move on, right? Like with the syncopation and the groove and like the bounce, I'm completely fine with having a little 6, 7 minute Camel Walk just thrown in the set and nothing unique
It
or
was only
special coming out of
5.
it. Okay, all right. 5
It's fine.
minutes.
It does its thing.
fine.
It's short.
It was more
5
like
gets the job done.
it was more like a
5 is fine.
it was more like a camel stroll.
Well, I was gonna say I like Camel Walk overall, but I forgot that they played it tonight until you said so right now. Like, I think I blinked or something.
Exactly. I went
That's
to the
what I'm
bathroom
saying.
and then boom,
Mm-hmm.
we're in stash.
It was a
And it-
short set though. Like it was a long set, but like a short show, so they can't stretch everything out.
Okay, all
let's
right.
go to Stash, it's
Let
fine.
me give you a better around the horn. The stash steam from the other night, or the standalone stash at 14 minutes tonight.
I liked tonight's just because, as Tim mentioned, like the jams tonight, I really got into. I don't know. There were a lot of like happy jams and those sort of joyful, uplifting jams, which I love.
It wasn't dark tonight.
It wasn't dark, and even like Carini, which we'll talk about in a bit, but like Carini, as soon as it like started jamming, took that immediate left turn to like Happyville and like which I love. Like dark Carini's great, but I love a happy like when it jams. So I just feel like tonight's stash, the one inside of Steam was great with Steam booking, and it was. But I like tonight. I don't know. There was just something about the jams tonight that all kind of made sense and were fun.
Either one of you guys.
I'm
Yeah,
getting
well,
to Benji.
I mean, for Stash, my commentary to myself out loud at the time was "Holy shit!" So I liked it.
There you go. That's
That's the answer.
Right? Like it's not like a groundbreaking Stash or like one of the ones from like 90. It's not like one of the ones. The jam didn't do anything new. It was just so goddamn good, and it was just right from the start, off to the races. And so it was like a kind of characteristic of the night as a whole. Is just like jams everywhere, and just very like Trey was very present. All 4 of them were very present. They're in the moment, and they had energy and they had intent, and that Stash was like a great example of that.
Which one you got, Tim?
I don't know. Probably this one tonight. It's weird though because it reminds me of last year and the year of the stash, the summer of the stash, and how many really good stashes we got last year. And I feel like this year hasn't been to that same caliber. There's been a couple good ones, but not quite like last year. But tonight I think was probably so.
There you go. And we called before the show. You said bouncing was either a set closer or a set opener.
No, it was the set break.
It was
the set break music. They played a shitty bouncing in the middle of this show so that everybody could go like piss and refresh their drinks.
I wanted to let you walk off the plank by yourself.
No, I mean it's fine. I don't dislike bouncing, but it wasn't a particularly well executed bouncing. And Stash was a perfect way to end the first set, and my friend was a perfect way to start the second set. And bouncing kind of was this short, like set.
Go hit the head. You got 3 minutes.
Yeah.
But that's what was great, was using bouncing as sort of that happy song and then going right into My Friend. I like that sort of juxtaposition of those 2 songs together. It was like the happy and then let's get a little crazy. And I always love that turn. I said that to you guys in the chat. That turn in My Friend is so cinematic and so like tonal and so great. Like it's that happy sunny day that all of a sudden turns into thunderstorms, and then you're like, "Oh fuck, what's happening now?"
I always wondered why that show Wook Plus Live never did a commercial with My Friend.
I was wondering that too.
Idea.
Who knows?
No idea why
like a good
that
trailer
never
name.
happened.
Good movie name.
And so My Friend, and if this was the second set, it would be weird. I mean, it was a good My Friend that didn't have the, what do they call that? My fee ending?
Mife?
Yeah.
Mife?
Yeah.
Whatever it is. But we ended up in a belly. I'm gonna send it to you, Benji, because you're a 1.0 guy like me, and
Well,
Bowie is sacred.
yeah, I was gonna say for many years, David Bowie was my jam. It was especially like since 2294 in Philadelphia, The Man, which is that's an underrated one. No one brings that up in the top 5 Bowies. And I was just listening to just any Bowie from that era is on any given night, it was the highlight of the show. And
Exactly.
and then of course it took a break as that, and they kind of just went through the motions with it for a long time. And it definitely hasn't been, even though it's been great to hear, it often, it hasn't been the show stealer that it used to automatically be. And tonight I thought was, while it was compact and while it was like a micro jam, it was start to finish, it was stellar. It was absolutely stellar. I think that combined with the Carini, right there, that's the jam.
Meat. That's the meat,
That's
right?
the, and I thought Bowie just shined. It really did. It's talking about like a song that when they wanted to take off, it is it's the show stealer, But it's nice to see it like in that pole position again.
The last 2 minutes of Bowie are my favorite thing in all of Phish, whether they nail it or not. Just that when Trey,
I'm right there with you. Absolutely.
such good stuff.
But nailing it does help, though.
Yes.
It does.
Nailing it,
it's not nothing.
When they take it, it's almost in the end of Split Open and Mount has a very similar thing, just those 3 notes. But when Bowie comes back to landing, like there's this area of Bowie where it is type 2 by design, and it's like they go off, and oftentimes it's like this formless space with Bowie, right? Especially towards the end.
And the anticipation, you're just like,
it's like the missile slowly coming back into, or the rocket for that matter, slowly coming back into gravity, and gravity all of a sudden takes hold of it. And from that moment on, as soon as an object hits gravity, there's a predictable arch, right? It's physics, right? But until it hits gravity, it's free. It's in space, and then all of a sudden it's like it hits that atmosphere, and then Bowie has this trajectory. And even though the arrow's downwards, like to explode in the earth or whatever the metaphor is, it's the big explosion, the big ending.
It is
every single time it hits.
And they blew it up, like you said, into Carini. If you want to continue with your pontification about the Carini,
Carini then just took it, to the next level. Carini was the highlight of the show. I think that it was. I very rarely say this. I think it was the clear highlight of the show. In a show with many highlights. Many micro jams throughout. The show was just start to finish. It was on. But I thought Carini was the apex of it. Just tons of ideas.
What you got?
100%. Wait, you sent it to me or T? I didn't.
Yeah, I sent it to you.
No, I agree with everything Benji's saying, and I think that the Carini was spectacular, and actually the No Man's that it went into was really good too. So it's kind of like hard for me to detach those two.
Are you pro like T is the Bliss jam in Carini, or do you like the darker Carini like myself?
Wow, there's a weird echo there. I'm gonna mute T for a second. It might be him. I think it is. No, I think you need a variety of jams with Carini and with all of these things, even with like Tweezer. Like you can't just have the same, because that to me is what kind of happened with Disease, where it's like they had a very predictable, even though it's type 2 is also like that's a Disease jam. So I like that Carini's not always just a dark, type jam. Like I like that it blisses. They have been blissing it a lot more. It feels like, I don't know, like it's become a more frequent thing. So I don't want it to lose its edge in darkness, but yeah, I'm okay with bliss.
And then you like you said, they landed in the No Man's. I was hearing Isabella for a second beforehand.
Yeah, what was the other one that people were
Lowrider.
Lowrider.
It had elements of Isabella. I don't know if we can say a tease, but it was just so close to that territory, and then Lowrider was definitely a Lowrider. I mean, I don't think that Scott Marks might not notate it, for Phish.net, but it was a Lowrider.
I feel like it was the Lowrider tempo and rhythm, but I don't think it was the note. It was still the No Man's notes, but in the Lowrider.
Well, it ended up as it ends up. I mean, I think it was revealed that Phish may have stolen No Man's and just speeded up Lowrider.
And
Right.
they played Lowrider. See, I always wonder about this. They did that one night in maybe Worcestershire. That they played Lowrider, and so do you have that in the back of your head when you're in the barn and you guys are running through jams and listening to tape and you're like, that could be a song? Do you not even realize that maybe in the back of your head, Mike, you're dropping into Lowrider even though you don't consciously know it?
I mean, I'm sure that happens. That probably happens with any jam band.
I was gonna say, I know for a fact that shit
I
happens
think, yeah.
because I used to play with a guy. We would play a lot of like Phish and Dead tunes, right, just for fun. And then he would write his own music. And there's always a section of a song where that was like a portion of Yem that was either
That's
slowed down or
Begonia,
sped
but-
up or like something from like Bird Song. Like there was always some influence that just worked its way into his original composition. And I don't think he was trying to like steal it, but that's the shit he plays all the time. It gets into your fingers and your memory, you know.
Occasionally, I mean, I 100% agree with you, but I also think that sometimes they do steal it, and it's not like theft. It's like Trey's talked about, how different chord progressions have been directly lifted from songs, and it's not plagiarism because he does his own thing with it.
Right.
But like, you can't plagiarize a chord progression. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Well,
so
I don't know, because if you ask Public Enemy and Mr. Chuck D, he'll tell you that they can copyright a beat, so why can't you copyright a chord?
That's true. Yeah. So, but I mean, let's just say that Phish, liberally pulls from all, but that's like
Alumni Blues is Walking Blues. Alumni Blues is Walking Blues with different lyrics.
I mean, stirred up bass line. Farmhouse also has Bob Marley in it.
Right, No
Bob
Woman,
Marley,
No Cry, or whatever it is, right? Exactly.
Yeah, but like 15 songs have that. I mean, I feel
totally right. That's what I mean.
But there were also only 8 chords, so there's a finite number of.
The weird thing is, people know about like tweezers, like rip-offness, right? Like there's ones that are more common and well known. I don't think before tonight I have ever heard anybody talk about No Man's connection to it's Lowrider, right? Yeah. I couldn't remember if it was Lowrider or.
Ben revealed it tonight. It was the. Big,
I know they exposed it to.
Yeah.
It was the humidity after all that rain.
Yeah.
And then they twisted around again.
Talking about lifting up from Santana.
Right.
That song.
A little bit from over here, a little bit from over there. And then we're going to get to it, but the joke is, I guess they threw everybody into Drift While You're Sleeping, but let's talk about Twist for a little bit.
The Sleeping Monkey does have a lot of it. That was another example. Bob Marley and the Beatles. Bob Marley and the Beatles is who they love to steal from. Not steal, just.
And that's a good people to steal from. They're good people to steal from.
Yeah.
Doesn't Tipper's Choice have a song that basically does that with Terrapin? Like
they have a song that sounds like Morning and Marion. Whichever one, like Lotus Perfume or whatever we did. Lilac Perfume.
No,
what
but
was the
okay.
song
Lilac, yeah.
It sounds just like Morning and Marion off of Garcia and Wales album.
But they have another song that sounds like Terrapin. Anyway,
where's Llama?
I don't know.
When you need him?
He's sleeping. Don't worry about it. No, so then Drift, I think was fine. I don't know why I want to rush through this, but I feel like
you are. You didn't even mention Twist, but
woo! All right, that's all I have to say about Twist.
You got your.
Are you not a Twist fan?
I mean, what is there to say about Twist? They woo, they dance. It's fine.
But it's always a good
thing.
It does.
It's like a meat stick kind of thing. It gets the crowd into it.
There were 2.0 twists that were definitely the meat of the set.
Right?
Yeah. And Twist has had a history where Twist has, when they play Twist, there's always the potential. There's always the potential. It's not often fulfilled, but when it's not often fulfilled, it's still solid. It's a workhorse.
I hate to be the guy that says this, and I'm going to regret it. But I feel like Twist is almost too heavy rotation for that song right now. Like what is it? The third one of this tour?
Yeah.
Like I feel like I don't know. They're just playing.
It's a very comfortable place for Trey to go.
Yeah, I mean it's Piper Twist,
Yeah, they played Twist in Bethel, and I think
Well,
earlier in the
it was an
tour.
8-show gap since the last twist, and a lot of shows, a lot of songs on this tour we've seen, like the sweet spot seems to be like 4 to 6
Yeah.
show gap on most of them. There's some that are like 8 to 10. But for the
46
most part,
days is like 4 shows. something like
Yeah,
But
I
that's
mean,
been
that
like
thing-
that for years. That's
Yeah.
always
Yeah,
been in
and
heavy
Since it
rotation.
debuted.
Yeah, and Possum started to
Possum,
play
yeah.
more. Stash, as we were saying earlier, I think has come out more now, like
Yeah.
recently.
Right, but
a
all
lot.
these songs I feel like are those staples that are always kind of in heavier rotation. And not that I don't like Twist, I just feel like that's a song that diminishes a little bit from being in such heavy rotation.
It does. It
Yeah.
does.
It's a
Because
weird
it
thing
becomes
to
very.
Any song that's in heavy rotation to me, because I'm the type of guy, I know you guys are as well, that listens to every note, right? And so if I was the casual fan that didn't have any idea what they were doing this tour and went to Pine Knob and they played Twist, I'd be like, oh yeah, Twist, and so like it's cool like
Totally.
that, but yeah, I mean for people, I guess that there's any song that's in heavy rotation is going to have a certain just we want something a little bit more exciting, but that's our own fault for watching them
Yep.
so much.
The thing with heavy rotation, though, is you raise the bar. They always nail it. Split Open and Melt is always way up here. So when you're like, yeah, it was regular old Split Open and Melt, in comparison to the history of it, you're
It's
like
like chicken
way
and
up
egg,
there.
though. Do
Well,
they
yeah,
play
I
it
was gonna
because they always nail it, or do they always nail it
Well,
because they always play it?
Right there is the argument that I think the band has actually discussed and ongoing, and that is like, do you have a small rotation of songs and you can really nail them and you can really just every 4 shows
Explore
you
them,
just keep
right?
playing them and you explore them throughout the tour.
Like the Dead
Like,
did.
you
The
get
Dead
deeper. Yeah,
did
like the
that.
Dead did, and
right.
like Phish would do, like in 1995, for instance, is such a great example, because that fall of 95 was a long tour. It was a beautiful. It was just they were playing at that point. It was a peak Phish, and typically most of those songs were 4 to 6 shows.
The fog
Yeah.
that surrounds.
Honestly, I feel like the start of 3.0 was like that too. I
Yeah,
don't think
that's
it was
right.
until
That's right.
around the Baker's Dozen
Yep.
when they started just like blowing up and doing crazy,
Well, the argument for that is it's exciting. I like it when they don't do it. I like no repeat tours. I love that. Like
Yeah,
I'm
me
a
too. It's
big
probably
fan.
one of my
Fall,
favorite
that
things.
winter 19 thing,
Yeah.
the 6
Yeah.
shows, 7
Well, I
shows.
mean, and
they
also
did.
even the beginning, the spring tour this year, where they went
Until
almost to the end.
Cavern, right? Until Cavern at
almost
Deer
they went
Creek,
almost
right?
to the end. And I thought it was kind of cool by not doing it, because by not going all the way to the end, it was them being like, this isn't a shtick. Like we don't want this to be talked about. So when people talk about this tour, and whether they criticize it or praise it,
Right, crush us because we played one song 5
Yeah.
times over 17
Mhm.
shows. Well, it's our new song. We like the fucking
That's
song.
right.
We want
That's
you
right.
to
I mean,
hear
when
it.
they debuted Sample on a Jar, it was every single night except Great Woods, because they're there for 2 nights in a row.
I saw Landlady in 91 to open the show 3 nights in a row.
Yeah.
They did it
2001
every
for the
night,
entire summer of 93. Every
Yeah.
second set for 93 was 2001 opener. And then more recently, Fuego. I say
Yeah.
Yeah,
recently,
they did it with
it's-
Numberline in
Numberline,
09. They
yeah.
played Numberline. They just
Yeah.
did it with Petrichor, like whenever that came out. When the Big
Numberline
Goat-
is infamous because it was played so much.
Yeah, I mean, the people forget that they do that, and I'm glad that they do that. In so much as I would rather see them play a song that I know that they're super stoked about playing, whether or not it's my favorite.
Exactly, right.
Versus them playing my favorite but hating it. I don't want them to be playing David Bowie but yelling, "Why are we doing this, man? We have so much."
Right.
I want them
so-
to be playing whatever they're playing, whatever they
Right.
feel like in the moment.
And so tonight, I think Trey played a song that he really wanted to play.
Wait, we're not
because-
getting out of this conversation yet, though. Are you trying to pivot
No,
back?
no,
'Cause
go.
This is fucking a brilliant conversation, man. And I think,
Go.
no, honestly, I think repeating those songs on a new album or having those staples in heavy rotation are really important for the development of those jams and songs
Yeah.
too.
Sure.
And I love Tom Marshall's theory. I don't know if it was on like Under the Scales or if it
What
was on
Cost
Undermine
the
or
Lot.
something, but I remember him saying or talking about how a lot of 2.0 songs, like things off of Undermine and Round Room, never had the chance to develop and get played like that. So out of all of like the catalog, there's a lot of lost jam potential that
What's your one
more
Round
recently
Room
have started
song?
to come out.
What's
What?
your one? I know you're a 2.0 fan. What's your one round room song that you would like to see actually become heavy rotation?
Heavy rotation, I don't know. I think I always like Seven Below. I mean, that's a decent rotation already,
I
and then
saw
maybe
my
that's
first
why it
one at
sticks
Dick's
out.
last year. Yeah,
I think an actual round room, like the song, in
that's where I
heavier
was going.
rotation
Right.
than it's been in would be great. I also love Pebbles. I don't want to increase that though. I feel like that's what Twist should be, right? Like Pebbles is special when you get it, and it has that luster to
Once
it. That's
a
what
tour, right?
right. That's I think about the rotation that Twist should be is where Pebbles is at.
But I guess Pebbles might not be as comfortable for Trey to walk into every 4 or 5
Yeah,
nights.
because it doesn't ask everybody to woo. I don't know. I don't know. All right, I'm off my soapbox. I'm done
I love
ranting.
Long Room. I think that and I agree with Tom's theory. Like, when they debuted Mercury, I remember I instantly loved it. But I remember a lot of my friends, thinking, I said this is one of the greatest new songs that they've written in years, and all my friends rolled their eyes. And then a year later, they're calling for it as their one wish for the night. It's that every single time that Phish debuts, not only is that it's natural as humans. We like the familiar, and that's what makes Phish so exciting is when they take the familiar and then they make it unfamiliar.
I got that with Wave of Hope.
Yeah.
When I started hearing that, and the one they did at Merriweather, it was the most perfect opener because it doesn't ram everything's right down your throat. It gives you this too will pass.
Yeah.
And it wasn't it raining that night? Was that the night it rained?
Yeah, Merriweather Night too.
Yeah. And I don't know. I can get funky about it. I'm way down on Trey's lyrics. I think he really turned a corner with Wave of Hope. If you didn't know, sign up next week and we'll be good. So are you gonna let me crash into the Encore?
Yeah, why not?
Because Jovi was there. Everybody's favorite bug singer, Jovi, was there, and Trey handed her a pick before the Encore and then came out and did the song. And does anybody want to be touchy-feely and happy about it?
It's a little kid conundrum, right? In that, here's the thing, is that, like, it's cute, it's a wonderful moment, but then you put that on the live cast, and that's, every single parent wants their kid to go down to the rail, right?
My kid's cuter than that.
to get a picture with Trey. And the other thing, too, and I know that this is controversial, and I have mixed feelings about it myself, but, like, I understand, that you see a kid in the audience. Trey sees a kid in the audience, and Trey lights him up because he's in the grandfather.
He's a great guy, right?
He's in his grandfather years, so it lights him up. But what I don't like is that then when he wants to do something like "fuck your face," right? Is he self-censoring himself because he's like, I'm a role model now for these kids and these generations, and so can he really do an Iculus where he's like, read the fucking book? Like does it make Phish more like PG?
Hey, child,
from to be that aware of all the kids in the audience.
Let me explain to you the power of my guitar.
Yeah, I honestly, Benji, I was thinking the exact same thing. Is like if the pit turns into like the ball
Family
pit
time
at Chuck E. Cheese, and there's just a shit ton of kids down there. Will we still?
We're
get
all
the
going to
fuck your
hell.
face sets and I think that shouldn't happen. Listen, I'm okay. I brought my daughter last year to AC. Like, I'm not gonna judge people or tell you what to do. Right? Like, do your thing, be responsible, do what's best for your kid. But like, at the same time, I don't know that I personally would love the pit being filled with kids. Like, I think that's like there's places for it.
Somebody's gonna elbow a kid or something because
there's fucking babies down there already whining and bitching about shit.
I tell you what, at Merriweather, I was hanging out with Wook and his wife, and me and Miss Wook saw a person with a baby carriage walking through the pathway in the middle of the lawn, and I was like, that's our new scam. We bring shit in the fucking baby carriage. She was like, yes.
Are you making me complicit in something while I'm not paying attention to what you're talking about? I feel like we should talk about this Encore.
Possum.
And that was it. That was great.
That was it. Possum was possum, like it always is. I love that it's all over the place. Second
Yeah.
song, close the set, encore.
Opener. And it's
Yeah.
one of those songs, though, no matter where you throw it, it's fantastic.
Well,
Works
but throwing
really
it on the
well.
encore like that, it was like Bud Possum. It's like that's it's what an encore is supposed to be. And that it's just an exclamation mark. It's like that like it's not gonna. It's very rare that the encore is the highlight, right?
Leave you wanting more though. You're going to drive to
Yeah.
Alpine because you're like, that possum was hot.
Yeah.
I'm going to Alpine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It leaves you feeling good. It leaves you feeling good.
And
I
am not
thought
going to Alpine.
Meriwether's Alumni Blues encore was probably
Pretty
one of the
sexy.
few times this tour where the encore was the highlight. But you're right.
No,
the majority
no,
of the time.
Oh, come on.
What?
They did the Shafty, not Shafty.
Oh,
That
that's
night.
only interesting to
Strawberry letter.
internet nerds that want to fight with Scott
They did
Marks.
the
Like,
strawberry
Had
letter.
their
The
stats.
strawberry
dude,
letter was
people
They
came up
saw
to
it.
me and they were like, "Is this Shafty or Olivia's Pool?" Like freaking out, and I was like, "I don't fucking know," but it was cool. Like,
and we are non-committal on this. Whatever Fishnet says, we're going to go with. Is
Yeah.
where we are with this.
yeah,
So.
that's always been the
Are
policy.
you going to bring up the end music Friday? We got Andy
You want me
Michael.
to?
Well, I mean, I think so.
How are we gonna get out of here without a producer? We're just gonna keep talking about
Just keep
nonsense.
talking and cut it out.
Did you just record it?
Yeah, he did. He just fucking
Recorded the
recorded
backwards
the
on the
show.
Kevin numberlined us.
Numberlined it.
Usually I'm the one that does that. Hey, everybody pay close attention. We got a lot of announcements coming up in the coming weeks. We have the Wookiee Awards in September. I have another bracket coming out. We're going to do Dead Show. Benji, we have to have you on a show to talk about the best shows in Dead history. That's going to be a great bracket.
was
Season
at all
4
of
of
them.
Live is coming in the fall. We have Shit at Dick's. We got all sorts of stuff.
And tomorrow we got
Subscribe,
Friday we got Andy Michaels. 1 o'clock tomorrow. Claybird and Scotty King.
This is like a
You got-
slow build
You
Piper.
got shit at Dick's?
Yes, we'll be at Dick's. We're actually going to be on Osiris spot if we're allowed to say that.
And I would love to actually hang out, Benji, at Dick's.
Yeah,
Last time we
that's
only had
For
a quick
real,
interview
yeah.
and had to run.
I hate
All right, I'm
hey,
gonna
how
call
you
it.
doing?
Balloons.
Oh, God, I fucking love this. Bye.